Chapter 4. Down below, main base, 1600 hours, station standard, local dawn. Morning was near, a red line on the horizon. Emilio stood in the open, breath paced evenly through the mask, wearing a heavy jacket against the perpetual chill of nights at this latitude and elevation. The lines moved in the dark, quietly, bowed figures hastening with loads like insects saving eggs from flood, outward, out of all the storage domes. The human workers still slept, those in queue and those of the residence's domes. Only a few staff helped in this. His eyes could spot them here and there among the landscape of low domes and hills, tall shadows among the others. A small, panting figure scurried up to him, gasped a naked breath.
Yes, you sinned, Constantine man.
Bounder?
I Bounder.
The voice hissed around a grin.
Good runner, Constantine man.
He touched a wiry, furred shoulder, felt a spidery arm twine with his. He took a folder paper from his pocket, gave it into the Hisa's calloused hand.
Run then,
he said.
Carry this to all human camps. Let their eyes see. You understand? And tell all the Hisa. Tell them all, from the river to the plain. Tell them all send their runners, even to Hisa who don't come in human camps. Tell them be careful of men. Trust no strangers. Tell them what we do here. Watch, but don't come near until a call they know. Do the Hisa understand?
Lucas is come,
the Hisa said.
Yes, understand, Constantine man. I Bounder. I am wind. No one catches.
Go,
he said.
Run, Bounder.
Hard arms hugged him, with that frightening easy strength of the Hisa. The shadow left him into the dark, flitted, ran. Words sped. It could not be recalled. Not so easily. He stood still, watched the other human figures on the hillside. He had given his staff orders and refused to confide in them, wishing to spare them responsibility. The storage domes were mostly empty now, all the supplies they had contained taken deep into the bush. Word sped along the river, by ways which had nothing to do with modern communications, nothing which listeners could monitor. Word which sped with a Hisa's speed and would not be stopped at any order from the station or those who held it. Camp to camp, human and Hisa, wherever Hisa were in touch one with the other. A thought struck him, that perhaps never before man had the Hisa had reason to talk to others of their kind in this way, that never, to their knowledge, was there war, never unity among the scattered tribes, but somehow, knowledge of man had gotten from one place to the other, and now humans sent a message through the strange network. He imagined it passing on riverbanks and in the brush, by chance meetings and by purpose, with whatever purpose moved the gentle, bewildered Hisa. And over all the area of contact, Hisa would steal, who had no concept of theft, and leave their work, who had no concept of wages or of rebellion. He felt cold, wrapped as he was in layers of clothing, well insulated against the chill breeze. He could not, like Bounder, run away. Being Constantine and human, he stood waiting, while advancing dawn picked out the lines of burdened workers, while humans from the other domes began to stir out of sleep to discover the systematic pilferage of stores and equipment, while his staff stood by watching it happen. Lights went on under the transparent domes. Workers came out, more and more of them standing in shock. A siren sounded. He looked skyward, saw only the last few stars as yet, but calm had wind of something, and a presence disturbed the rocks near him, and a slim arm slipped around his waist. He hugged Miliko against him, cherishing the contact. There was a call from across the slope. Arms lifted, pointed up. The light of the descending ship was visible in the paling sky, sooner than they had wanted.
Minx!
He called one of the Hisa to him, and she came. A female with the white blaze of an old burn on her arm, came burdened as she was and panting.
Hide now,
he told her, and she ran back to the line, chattering to her fellows as she went.
Where are they going?
Miliko asked.
Did they say?
They know, he said. Only they know. He hugged her the tighter against the wind.
And they're coming back again? That depends on who does the asking. If they take us away, we do what we can. But there will be no outsiders giving them orders.
The light of the ship brightened, intense. Not one of their shuttles, but something bigger and more ominous. Military, Emilio reckoned. A carrier's landing probe.
Mr. Constantine!
One of the workers came running up, stopped with a bewildered spreading of his hands.
Is it true? Is it true that Mazian's up there? We were sent word that's what it is. We don't know what's going on up there. Indications are things are quiet. Keep it calm. Pass the word. We keep our wits about us. Ride events as they come. No one says anything about the missing supplies. No one mentions them. You understand? But we aren't going to have the fleet strip us down here and then go off to leave the station to starve. That's what's going on. You pass that word too. And you take your orders only from me and from Miliko. Here? Sir!
The man breathed, and at his dismissal, ran off to carry the news.
Better put it to Q,
Miliko said. He nodded, started that way, from the hillside on which they stood. Over the hill, a glow flared up, field lights on to guide the landing. He and Miliko walked the path over to Q, found way there.
Fleet's up there,
Emilio said, and at the quick panicked murmur.
We're trying to keep the food for station and ourselves, trying to stop a fleet takeover down here. You saw nothing, you heard nothing. You're deaf and blind, and you don't have responsibility for anything. I do.
There was murmuring from the resident workers, from Q. He turned, he and Miliko, headed by the path from there to the landing site. A crowd of his own staff and resident workers formed about him. Q-folk, too. No one stopped them. They had no guards anymore. Not here. Not at the other camps. Q worked by posted schedules like other workers. It was not without its arguments, its difficulties. But they were less a threat than what descended on them all, which would make its demand for provisions for troop-laden carriers, and possibly demands for live bodies. The ship came down in thunder, settled into the landing area, and overfilled it. And on the hillside they stopped their ears in its sound and turned their faces from its reeking wind until the engines had shut down. It rested there in the breaking day, foreign and ungainly, and bristling with war. The hatch opened, lowered a jaw to the ground, and armored troops walked down onto the soil of the world as they, on the hillside, stood still in a line of their own, armorless and weaponless. The troops braced, aimed rifles. An officer came down the ramp into the light, a dark-skinned man with a breathing mask only, no helmet.
That's Portrayed,
Miliko whispered.
That has to be Portrayed himself.
He felt the burden on himself to go down and answer the posed threat. Let go of Miliko's hand. But she did not let go of his. They walked down the hill together to meet the legendary captain. Stopped at speaking range, all too conscious of the rifles now much closer to them.
Who's in charge of this base?
Portrayed demanded.
Emilio Constantine and Miliko D, Captain. Before me? Yes, Captain. Receive a decree of martial law. All supplies at this base are confiscated. All civilian government, human and native, is suspended. You will turn over all records of equipment, personnel, and supplies immediately.
Emilio made an ironic sweep of his free hand, offering the domes, plundered domes. Portrayed would not be amused. He was afraid, for himself, for Miliko, for the men and women of this base and others, not least of all for the Hisa, who had never seen war.
You will remain on this world,
Portrayed said,
to assist us in whatever ways are necessary.
Emilio smiled tautly and pressed Miliko's hand. It was a rest, nothing less than that. His father's message, rousing him out of sleep, had given him time. About him were workers who had never asked to be put in this position, who had been volunteered for this service. He relied less on their silence than on the Hisa's speed. It was even possible that the military would put him under more direct restraint. He thought of his family on the station, the possibility of Pell being evacuated, and of Mazian's men making deliberate ruin of Downbelow itself in a pullout, destroying what they did not want Union to get their hands on, and pressing all the able-bodied into the fleet. They would put guns in Hisa's hands if it would get them lives to throw against Union.
We'll discuss the matter,
he answered.
Captain. Arms will be turned over to my troops. Personnel will submit to search. I suggest discussion, Captain.
Portrayed gestured sharply.
Bring them inside.
The troops started for them. Miliko's hand clenched on his. He took the initiative and they walked forward on their own, suffered themselves to be spot-searched, and brought up the ramp into the glare of the ship's interior, where Portrayed waited. Emilio stopped at the upper end of the ramp, with Miliko beside him.
We have the responsibility for this base,
he said.
I don't want to make public issue of it. Very quietly, I'll comply with reasonable needs of your forces. You are making threats, Mr. Constantine. I'm making a statement, sir. Tell us what you want. I know this world. Military intervention in a working system would have to take valuable time to establish its own ways, and in some cases, intervention could be destructive.
He stared into Portrayed's scar-edged eyes, well read that this was a man who did not like to be defied, who was personally dangerous.
My officers will go with you,
Portrayed said,
to get the records.